Hello you beautiful misfits and welcome to the third instalment of my Pixel Burn E3 2016 Blitzkrieg, in which I'll be taking a snarky look at the Ubisoft conference. But Matt, you said at the end of your last video you'd be doing the Microsoft conference next. Yeah, well I cocked up, didn't I? My original plan was to do the Ubisoft one before the Microsoft one because that's the order they happened in. Except I went and got the order mixed up, didn't I, because I was operating on fuck all sleep. And when you watch this many E3 conferences in such a short time span, back to back, while sleep deprived, they all start to kind of blur together and... Oh yeah, that happened. My brain must have erased that from my memory in self-defense. This bit with the travelling furry circus was part intro, part announcement for Just Dance 17. Which, according to fifth-time host Aisha Tyler here, threatens to land on all platforms old and new this coming October. Aisha also confirmed Just Dance 17 will be coming to the Nintendo NX sometime next year. And that's the only bit of information about Nintendo's new console you were getting at this E3. What's that? You thought there'd be something about it during Nintendo's presentation? Oh, you poor sweet summer child. As well as being a presentation of Ubisoft games, this event also marked the company's 30th birthday, which is as good a reason as any for the animal costumes, I suppose. Fortunately, Aisha Tyler didn't linger on this segment and swiftly reintroduced us to Ghost Recon Wildlands, which, according to Aisha,
blew your fucking mind.
You could tell Ubisoft are a European company because they don't censor swearing. If anything, they encourage it. Except it's funnier when someone like Todd Howard swears because you know he's not supposed to. Swearing with permission doesn't pack quite the same punch. Anyway, it was Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, which opened with a bunch of pre-rendered nonsense involving skydiving, farming, Santa Muerte and evil Mexican drug barons, starring a 4-man NRA convention. Dominic Butler, lead game designer on Ghost Recon Wildlands, then came on stage ostensibly to present some information about the game. Although I think he might have got his schedules mixed up because he started giving a TED talk about the coca leaf.
It's found in every gas station, every hospital, and every town square. And they use it for a variety of things, like treating nausea and altitude sickness, to a refreshing energy drink.
Then things got a bit stranger.
So we asked what if? What if a Mexican drug cartel moved in, took over the entire country, seized all of those coca resources to become the #1 producer of cocaine on the planet, effectively turning Bolivia into a narco state.
I don't know about you, but if I was asking those sorts of questions, I'd probably want to lay off the old coca leaf a bit. Dominic then introduced who he actually was for the benefit of the people in the audience who didn't have a screen showing his name like I did, before showing off some gameplay footage. Starring everybody's favourite professional voice actors, the Ubisoft Totally Authentic Honest Multiplayer Players, or UTAR-MP for short, as they work to tactically extract some cartel chap called El Pozolero, aka the Stew Maker. Other, more intimidating cartel gangster nicknames are available. Cue a bunch of scripted banter from 4 blokes talking like no actual players ever actually seriously talk like.
Now, tango down.
And coordinating their actions in a way that'll put your average dance choreographer to shame.
Okay, I'm in position.
I have 3 tangos in front of me. Weaver, you think you can help?
I got it.
Instead of being an authentic seeming demonstration of multiplayer in Wildlands, the whole thing comes off feeling even faker than these things usually do. In gameplay terms, it looks like a blend of Far Cry and GTA, which could be fun if you get 3 other friends to play with. How long that fun lasts, however, depends on how quickly Wildlands succumbs to Ubisoft open world syndrome. Up next was South Park, the Fractured Butthole, except you wouldn't have known it at first because of this absolutely fucking brilliant fake-out trailer. Brilliant for how utterly indistinguishable it was from a bunch of other genuine trailers for other real games.
Criminal activity has overflowed to suburban and rural areas. Dissolution of moral structure, international conspiracies, a multi-billion-dollar drug trade. No one knows the source, and authorities are helpless in stopping this epidemic of crime.
I'm not in the least bit ashamed to say that I was completely fooled by it. It's genuinely one of the best fake-out trailers I've ever seen. After that little hoodwink, there was a brief bit from Jason Schroeder of Ubisoft San Francisco before Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park fame came on, sat down and chewed the fat with him a bit about the game. And you know what? This segment was genuinely enjoyable. Matt and Trey were entertaining of course, but they also appeared genuinely enthused about the game and have clearly enjoyed being a part of the game design process again. We also got actual gameplay on show, like the new combat system that allows for increased tactical mobility during fights, interspersed with more casual chat between Matt, Trey and Jason, in which Trey talks about helping a gay fish's mother get into heaven, and how he would drag the developers round his house after work to play board games. Yeah, I can't really mock this segment, it was entertaining, interesting, and something of a rare joy to sit through. South Park The Fractured Butthole comes out on December 6th, and pre-ordering it gets you Stick of Truth for free, should you be inclined to that sort of thing. A chap called Julian Garrity came on next to talk up a bunch of DLC for The Division, for the 10 people still actually playing it. Aside from exclusive Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six and Splinter Cell outfits free to members of Ubisoft Club, there's also a new expansion coming for the game called the Survival Expansion, which adds, a survival mode, obviously. Presented with this cinematic trailer about extreme weather conditions and people getting beaten up in an alley. After that was some obligatory VR stuff with Ubisoft Montreal's Charles Houteau, Oculus VR's head of publishing Jason Holtman, and Oculus creator Palmer Luckey to play a bit. Oh dear God, who told Palmer Luckey that sandals and trousers combo was a good idea? Because it isn't, it really isn't, and they should be fired. Preferably out of a cannon, into the sun, along with all the sandals on Earth. I fucking hate sandals. Anyway, the game they were playing was called Eagle Flight, which is about eagles flying around in an abandoned Paris that's been reclaimed by nature, like in Tokyo Jungle. Alas, unlike Tokyo Jungle, the animals don't wear cool hats and sunglasses. This demo of Eagle Flight was your basic capture the flag type dealie, only the flag is a rabbit the eagles have to bring back to their nest, while shooting lasers at each other. Now if there's any game that would truly benefit from a retro 80s neon aesthetic, this would be it. It looked alright, I guess. Sorry, I'm still somewhat traumatised by that hideous trousers and sandals combination. The VR theme continued with something really rather cool looking, if somewhat familiar to anyone who's seen, heard of or played Artemis Bridge Simulator. Star Trek Bridge Crew from Ubisoft Red Storm Entertainment takes the Artemis Bridge Simulator concept and sticks it in VR, and to demonstrate it they made the smart move of roping in 3 Star Trek alumni to play it. Jerry 7 of 9 Ryan, LeVar, Geordie LaForge Burton and Carl Judge Dredd Urban. Like the South Park bit, this was another sincerely enjoyable section to watch for the simple reason that all 3 actors seemed to be genuinely having a whale of a time and really getting into the game. Especially LeVar Burton here, who was issuing commands left and right like he was the bloody captain or something. Namely because in this case he actually was the captain, which I suppose is the most logical choice in this case. He did serve under Captain Picard after all. LeVar Burton then joined Aisha Tyler on stage right there at the conference to talk some more about Star Trek Bridge Crew, whereupon any doubts I might have had that his earlier enthusiasm wasn't genuine were instantly disintegrated. He was an absolute joy to listen to, his enthusiasm for the game and VR overall was clearly sincere, his general nerding out over Star Trek was ruddy adorable and god damn it, I really want to play this game with LeVar Burton. As does Aisha Tyler, understandably.
Well, you can come over and then we can play with like Brent and Jonathan Frakes and Michael
on,
Dorn.
what are you doing to
right?
my feelings right now?
No, won't that be cool though?
I think I speak for all of us when I say that would be really rather cool to see, wouldn't it? This was absolutely a superb high point in the conference. Frankly, Ubisoft should just bring him back every year. After LeVar Burton's departure, we then saw the epic, in the literal sense of the word, cinematic intro to For Honor, Ubisoft's Dynasty Warriors-esque medieval battle affair where samurai, knights and Vikings brutally murder each other in an eternal war for supremacy. The intro also revealed the game's main villain, a sinister warlord calling herself Apollyon, who seems intent on escalating the ruckus and generally fucking up everyone's day. Of course, this being a segment about For Honor meant it was time for one of my favourite faces from last year's Ubisoft conference to take the stage once again, the one and only Jason Vandenberg. First of his name, Reaver of Skulls, Slayer of Men and Eternal God King of Battle, whose presentation wasn't so much a sales pitch as a fierce and inspiring call to war. Frankly, he was just too huge a presence for such a small stage. He really should have been delivering this speech in a muddy stockade at night, lit by the flickering light of a campfire, holding a horn of mead in one hand and a bloodied German longsword in the other, draped in the pelt of a wolf that he strangled with his own bare hands. Whereas last year's conference revealed the game's multiplayer component, this year's it was the turn of the game's single-player campaign, which can also be played in 2-player split-screen co-op. In it, players can be knighted to drive their enemies from the land, become a samurai to help stop a civil war, or choose to be a Viking and
as a Viking, well, I think it's better to just show you, huh? I'd like you to meet our game director on For Honor, Roman Campos Oriola. Come on out, Roland. Yes. My brother.
oh right, he's brought this chap out to show us some gameplay, obviously. It's just for a moment there I thought he was going to bring an actual Viking out onto the stage and slay him. Then we all bore witness to a chapter from Jason Vandenberg's autobiography. I mean, For Honor's single-player gameplay, in the form of a whole lot of rather fun-looking slaughter Viking style. A horde of reavers storm a coastal samurai fortress led by a humongous Viking bloke, cutting a bloody swathe through infantry, climbing the walls, shoving axes in people's skulls and throwing enemies from the battlements, all culminating in a one-on-one fight, because calling it a duel seems wrong somehow, with the enemy samurai commander, which ends with said commander taking an axe to his bollocks. After that, Jason Vandenberg and his battle brother departed the stage, leaving Aisha Tyler to announce For Honor's release date.
For Honor will be available on Valentine's Day.
Because nothing says true love quite like bringing your beloved the severed heads of your enemies. Proceedings became somewhat more understated with the announcement of Grow Up, the sequel to last year's puzzle platformer Grow Home, in a short but very sweet presentation by producer Pete Young. I have nothing snarky to say here. I'm not a complete monster. After that came one of the oddest intros to grace E3, yet completely unsurprising for a Ubisoft conference. Antti Ilvesero, the creative director of Motorcycle Stunt Bike Extravaganza Trials, and Far Cry Blood Dragon creative director Dean Evans came on stage wearing matching meat-coloured tracksuits to announce Trials of the Blood Dragon, a peculiar mashup of Far Cry Blood Dragon's neon 80s cheese and Trials' stunt bike antics, or as Antti put it,
Trials and Blood Dragon made baby together.
Cue the 80s style cheese-tastic trailer, which as expected absolutely nails the essence of that very, very strange era. Although it's not quite the Far Cry Blood Dragon sequel fans were probably hoping for. We then came to what can only be described as the Pele segment of Ubisoft's conference, referring of course to last year's EA conference, where Pele was brought on to talk about football. Only instead of a kindly old legendary footballer talking on and on about football, this was a kindly looking old legendary movie producer called Frank Marshall talking on and on about movies.
So it was kind of our goal as the filmmakers to take these elements and stay respectful to the franchise and the DNA of the brand.
And on.
The multi-layered mythology that we have that comes from the game.
And on.
We have a real story, and it has an arc that goes all the way to the end.
And on.
Using these real locations and a team of stunt experts to take us into the parkour and the elements that you're going to see in the film.
Because that's exactly the sort of thing you tune into a video game conference for, right?
So what drew you specifically to this project?
The money. They then showed some behind the scenes footage of Michael Fassbender from the new Michael Fassbender Assassin's Creed movie starring Michael Fassbender, along with footage from that first trailer featuring Michael Fassbender. Oh well, at least there was no completely inappropriate Kanye West track this time. After that came some stuff about Watch Dogs 2, kicked off with this cringe-inducing fake hacking by in-universe hacker collective and prick brigade DedSec, choked with faux anonymous style imagery and similar imitation bullshit in a way that just gets right on my fucking tits. Sure, Ubisoft, you multinational corporation, you go right ahead and show us exactly how any sort of authentic rebellion nowadays will only get co-opted by the system and sold right back to us at a premium. Thank you for reminding us the Empire never fucking ended, and how those who try to fight it are doomed to become it, because it proliferates like a virus, thus becoming its enemies. Anyway, Watch Dogs 2, it's set in San Francisco this time because the tech industry, lol, satire. Only unlike the first Watch Dogs where the main character was an unlikable bellend, this time the supporting cast are unlikable bellends too. Like this prick.
Captain Dipshit lives over there. Fucking A, man. You find the evidence and I'll mount our exit strategy.
If these are the people I'm supposed to root for in their fight against the establishment, sign me up for a pair of jackboots and a fucking truncheon. Blah blah new abilities, blah blah use a drone, blah blah jumping robot that someone should probably alert Boston Dynamics lawyers about, blah blah open world, blah blah botnets, the cloud, hack the Gibson, drop in drop out co-op, blah blah inevitable graphical downgrade. Exploring a virtual San Francisco could be fun I suppose, but that on its own is just not a big enough hook to make me want to play it. Oh, they're producing a Watch Dogs movie by the way, in partnership with Sony. Fuck knows why, we already have hackers. Finally, thank Azathoth, we got to the last game of the conference. A game from Ubisoft's studio in the French Alps that CEO Yves Guillemot bravely, perhaps foolishly, called a completely new genre.
We are combining the thrill of action sports with a fully explorable open world.
We have officially reached peak open world. Really, what can I say about this? It's sports, albeit alpine ones. The entire premise of the game is basically go up a mountain, then go down the mountain, completing the kind of challenges that are usually pointless side activities in other open world games. It certainly looks very pretty, don't get me wrong, I'm just clearly not the target audience for this sort of thing. Although there was this bit where one of the wingsuit flyers crashes into a mountainside with a sickening crunch, which I found rather amusing in a morbid sort of way. It's at least something new, I'll give it that. It just seems to be catering to a really niche crowd. The kind of crowd that perhaps live and work in the French Alps and spend their free times doing alpine sports, or used to before the inexorable march of time crept up on them to put aches in their joints and fractures in their bones, so they can now only experience all that stuff in a safe virtual environment. Oh, and Steep's a bit of a rubbish name, isn't it? My girlfriend suggested Apex, and I feel that's a far more fitting title that ties in much better with the game's overall themes. With that, the show came to a merciful close and Aisha bade us farewell for another year. God. You know, if this conference was completely terrible, then it wouldn't be such a struggle to get through. Except it wasn't. It was another crazy pendulum of a Ubisoft conference swinging wildly between good bits like For Honor, South Park, LeVar Burton and Grow Up, and not so good bits like Frank Marshall's Storytime, that teeth-grinding Watch Dogs 2 segment, and the Ubisoft's totally authentic, honest multiplayer players. I also still find Aisha Tyler an enjoyable host for the main part. Some of her jokes were a bit hit and miss, but most of them somewhat hit home for me, and at least she didn't awkwardly interact with cosplayers this time. And seeing her go all fangirl over LeVar Burton was also really rather sweet in a way, especially when he invited her around his house to play Star Trek Bridge Crew with Brent Spiner and Jonathan Frakes. For all my moaning, however, this could end up being the last Ubisoft conference we see done in this bonkers style, if Yves Guillemot and his brother Michel can't prevent a hostile takeover from French media conglomerate Vivendi. A somewhat more straight-laced and subdued Ubisoft conference would be more consistent and less emotionally disorienting, but would also lose much of what gets people talking about them, and that would be a shame. For the time being though, I'm just glad it's over for another year. Thank you for watching, and I promise the next one will actually be about the Microsoft conference. I've already started writing the script. For the time being, while you wait, feel free to sound off in the comments below and hit the like or dislike button at your pleasure. I'm going to go have a lie down now.